So here we go again, Taoiseach. Your government never tires of wasting taxpayers' money. €750,000 to construct 14 steps and a ramp at Deer Park in Mount Marion. Let me say, access to public spaces for people with disabilities is very, very important. But for €750,000, I was expecting a breathtaking feat of engineering, but no, nothing spectacular here. In fact, it's very, very ordinary, literally just steps and a ramp. The only breathtaking thing about this is the cost. €750,000 forked out from the public purse. Procurement experts have described this spend as wildly excessive. I would describe it as downright insulting to people. Now, I've raised issues of waste with you time and again, but Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael haven't learnt a single thing from the litany of waste that is now the hallmark of your government. You are serial wasters of public money. Hundreds of thousands for bike sheds, 1.4 million for a security hut, $500,000 for a perimeter wall, 20 million renting offices that lay empty, over €100,000 on a scanner for the National Gallery that lay idle for almost a decade. Little wonder then that the PAC's report yesterday pointed to serious and persistent deficiencies in spending oversight from the Department for the Arts. And this is the case right across government. The list of waste is as long as your arm. I could go on, but I would literally be here all day. And whilst government pours millions of people's money down the drain, workers and families count every single euro just to get by. The same government that delivered a budget of €9.4 billion that left people worse off. The same government that cancelled energy credits as families struggled to light and heat their homes. Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael keep the strings of the public purse very, very tight for working people. You're on the ball there, very, very diligent. But by God, are you happy for people's cash to be blown at every other turn? No oversight, no governance, no accountability, nobody shouting stop. In the grand scheme of your billions, €750,000 might not mean a lot to you, but it would pay the salaries of 20 new special needs assistants or 20 new nurses for a year. But instead, the money is spent on a few steps and a ramp that surely could have been built for a fraction of that cost. It is scandalous. Your government is incapable of dealing with what is clearly a widespread systemic problem. Tá €4 million caiitear céimeann agus rampa, léiríonn sé sill go bhfuil an rialtas fós a chur amú airgid nós cumalam. Taoiseach, you are allowing this waste of public money to happen over again, and you're doing nothing about it. So I have two questions for you. Firstly, do you believe that €750,000 for steps and a ramp represents value for the people's money? And do you now accept that a waste audit across government departments, as called for by Sinn Féin, is now urgently required to get to grips with this constant waste?
First of all, say to the Deputy that I don't believe 750,000 is right or proper in terms of, or appropriate in terms of 14 steps, but I think it seems to me that the scheme which was completed by Dún Laoghaire-Rathdown County Council is not just about 14 steps, and nonetheless the cost is excessive by any yardstick. I would say, you said Sinn Féin have called for a waste audit. I think Sinn Féin could take the example of Deputy Albert Donald here in front of me, who has done more than most deputies in the House to shine a light on public expenditure with his online facility and so on. So that's a deputy who's doing the work that you're asking us to do. Sinn Féin's very good at asking and asking, but surely you have a bit of resources yourself and capacity if you're that concerned about waste. Other than other than utilising, a particular case which is bad, to try and just go on the waste thing, and as a political exercise and an electoral exercise. In terms of the interaction between the NTA and the County Council, 750,000 is too much. Accessibility is very important. And in the context of accessibility in terms of wheelchair users, cyclists, parents with buggies and so on, that was the original objective, apparently, of this scheme by the Council and the NTA. And more generally, about 360 million of capital funds has been provided for walking and cycling infrastructure in 2025. The vast majority of it on budget and on time, and providing exceptional resources to people. That's the other side of the story. We can pick the one project that is without question excessive and difficult to comprehend in terms of costs. But there have been many other projects that I've witnessed which have revolutionised active travel in this country, in every town and city and county in the country. And thankfully more funding will be announced today in respect of more active travel, in terms of greenways and so forth. And yes, there has to be a rigorous focus on costs, no question about that, and on value for money in respect of changes. And we will work with, there is a local authority audit structure there to audit what local authorities are doing, and also in respect of the NTA. I'm sure you must be aware of because you'd have probably spoken to your councillors and so on, that the project, apparently this particular project was new pedestrian cycle ramp, a new granite access to upgrading of existing concrete footpaths, construction of new signalised pedestrian crossing, traffic calming measures, retaining walls and so on, which were all put in. So there's a significant list and so on like that. But again, I don't personally engage in every item of council expenditure, although I think the work that Albert Dolan has done has been very effective actually, in terms of providing material for people to track public expenditure on specific projects. And I'm sure Sinn Féin can avail of his good work in respect of that. But it is a serious issue if a council exceeds significantly. I mean, the original cost, I think, was in and around about 400,000, and the final cost is 750, and that's, by any yardstick, unacceptable, notwithstanding whatever complexities were involved. So, ar a bhíam nach níos since sasúil in échor, agus bhí an tography cabadal córla don léir a down, bhí si de gobar leis an NTA ar dús, agus is omarcha cathlachas ar fad ar an tography leis seo.
So bad and so chronic is the pattern of waste that even your own members have to acknowledge it, even if you can't, Taoiseach. That's where we are at. If this were a once-off event, that would be one thing, but you see, it's not. This is part now of an established pattern of waste. As an established pattern of waste on your watch. It is persistent and it is right across government. It's not simply local authorities, it is right at the heart of your government. And to add insult to injury, your government that tolerates, that allows, that's asleep at the wheel while vast sums of public monies are wasted, is the same government that is very vigilant, very mean, very tight when it comes to working people. So I want to ask you again, will you now instigate, as you are the Taoiseach, not I, will you instigate a waste audit right across government? Because that is what is required. Or will you simply allow money, the people's money, to be wasted again and again and again?
And the Minister of Jack Chambers has already introduced procedures and more robust and tighter procedures in terms of public spending. On the other hand, you're saying we're very mean and so on like that. We're being criticised for overspending. And notwithstanding your desire that we spend billions more, I mean, you want us to spend billions more than we allocated in the budget. But Ireland's economy is one of the fastest growing economies globally. The stewardship of this economy has been good by this government and by the last government. despite COVID, despite Brexit, despite the Russian invasion of Ukraine and the energy crisis that followed, despite the tariffs emanating from the United States. This has been a competent government in relation to the economic management of this country. And the policies we have pursued are far superior to anything you've produced on the economic front over the last number of years. No question about that. We have no truck with any waste in public expenditure, and we will deal with it at every layer of government. But you have councillors on that council. Well, your councillors, but every other councillor tracking it and so on like that. And so let's not. You should not be. And it's not good enough that there would be that level of expenditure. But we will deal with it.
Deputy Ivana Bacci.